The Scandals and Surprises of Franklin Delano Roosevelt Jr. Franklin Delano Roosevelt Jr., the son of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, led a life marked by political ambition, personal drama, and moments that shocked both the public and his family. While overshadowed by his father's immense legacy, Roosevelt Jr. carved out his own path filled with intrigue, controversy, and influence. Let's explore some of the most scandalous and fascinating aspects of his life. Fact number 1. A complex childhood, military service, and marital struggles. Franklin Delano Roosevelt Jr., born on August 17, 1914, was raised in the spotlight of American politics as the son of Franklin D. Roosevelt, the only U.S. president to serve 4 terms. Growing up, Franklin Jr. attended elite schools like the Groton School and Harvard College, where he was expected to uphold the family legacy. Despite this privileged upbringing, it was his service in World War II that earned him personal recognition. As a naval officer, he played a crucial role in the Battle of Casablanca in 1942, for which he was awarded the Silver Star. Admiral H. Kent Hewitt praised Roosevelt's courage, stating, "He led his men with valor under fire." However, his personal life was tumultuous. Roosevelt Jr. was married 5 times, beginning with his 1937 marriage to Ethel DuPont, an heiress of the powerful DuPont family. The marriage produced 2 sons, Franklin Delano Roosevelt III and Christopher DuPont Roosevelt, but their highly publicized divorce in 1949 cast a shadow over his career. His second marriage to Suzanne Parent also ended in divorce, and they had 1 daughter, Nancy Suzanne Roosevelt. 2 subsequent marriages to heiress Felicia Schiff Warburg Sarnoff and Patricia Louisa Oakes also ended in divorce. His final marriage, to Linda McKay Stevenson Weicker, lasted until his death in 1988. In total, Roosevelt Jr. had 5 children, but the constant media attention on his romantic entanglements overshadowed many of his professional efforts. Number 2. The Roosevelt name in politics, more of a curse than a blessing. Following in his father's political footsteps, Franklin Delano Roosevelt Jr. served in the U.S. House of Representatives for New York's 20th District from 1949 to 1955. His time in Congress was relatively uneventful, but his aspirations for higher office met repeated failures. In 1954, Roosevelt Jr. sought the Democratic nomination for governor of New York. Despite his famous last name, he lost the primary to W. Averell Harriman. Political commentators at the time were brutal, with one columnist noting, "He lacks the magnetism and cunning that made his father a legend." The press relentlessly compared him to his father, portraying him as a man lost in the shadow of greatness. In a particularly harsh piece, a New York Times editorial described him as a man who cannot escape his birthright but seems ill-fitted to carry it. Roosevelt Jr.'s lack of charisma and political acumen became a recurring theme in his unsuccessful bids for office. Number 3. Alleged Mafia connections. Rumors of Franklin Roosevelt Jr.'s alleged ties to organized crime plagued his political career. As a prominent New York lawyer, he was said to have represented figures with connections to the Mafia, although no conclusive evidence was ever made public. The whispers began in the 1950s and resurfaced during his tenure as chairman of the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission under President Lyndon Johnson. A 1968 exposé hinted at potential dealings with notorious mobster Vito Genovese, though Roosevelt Jr. denied the accusations. These allegations, while unproven, damaged his reputation and were often used by political opponents to undermine his credibility. Number 4. Battles with his own family over inheritance. The Roosevelt family was no stranger to internal conflict, and Franklin Delano Roosevelt Jr. found himself at the center of a bitter dispute over his father's estate. Franklin Jr. and his brother Elliot were particularly at odds, engaging in legal battles that attracted considerable media attention. The Roosevelts were heirs to a vast fortune, but Elliot's accusations of mismanagement against Franklin Jr. became tabloid fodder in the 1950s. As one family insider remarked, the public facade of unity was often an illusion, the brothers' rivalries ran deep, and the estate was the battlefield. These internal squabbles, which were widely publicized, only further eroded Franklin Jr.'s public image, turning him into a symbol of familial discord rather than a political leader. Number 5. The failed real estate mogul. Following his political setbacks, Franklin Delano Roosevelt Jr. attempted to establish himself as a real estate developer, focusing on New York City. However, his foray into business was marred by failure. Many of his projects were over budget or poorly managed, and several developments were left incomplete. In 1962, he attempted a high-profile venture in Manhattan, but construction delays and cost overruns led to financial collapse. His once prestigious name offered little protection from creditors, and his ventures left him in significant debt. One critic quipped, Franklin's inability to manage his business was the inverse of his father's political triumphs. Number 6. The scandalous Senate ambition. In 1956, Roosevelt Jr. made a bold attempt to win a U.S. Senate seat from New York, running against Republican Jacob Javits. His campaign quickly unraveled under the weight of personal scandals, including his multiple divorces, which his opponents used to question his character. The media coverage was ruthless, with newspapers describing him as a playboy politician. His campaign was further hampered by internal party divisions, and he ultimately lost to Javits by a wide margin. The defeat signaled the end of his political ambitions, with many seeing it as the final nail in the coffin for Roosevelt Jr.'s political career. Number 7. Allegations of tax evasion. During the 1960s, Franklin Roosevelt Jr. faced a series of tax evasion allegations stemming from his real estate ventures. The IRS launched an investigation into his finances, focusing on accusations of tax avoidance through complex financial arrangements. Though formal charges were never filed, the investigation made headlines and tarnished his already fragile reputation. As one observer put it, the Roosevelt name, once synonymous with integrity, was now linked to scandal and corruption. Even without legal consequences, the damage to his public image was irreparable. Number 8. The mysterious relationship with Eleanor and Franklin D. Roosevelt. Franklin Delano Roosevelt Jr.'s relationship with his mother, Eleanor Roosevelt, was fraught with tension, largely due to ideological differences. While Eleanor was a staunch progressive and champion of civil rights, Franklin Jr. held more conservative views, particularly on economic issues. This clash often led to strained conversations and public disagreements. Family friends remarked on the emotional distance between mother and son, with one insider stating, Eleanor was disappointed that Franklin Jr. did not embrace her causes as fervently as she hoped. There were also rumors that Franklin Jr. resented Eleanor's close relationship with his older brother, James Roosevelt, further complicating their dynamic. Equally complex was Franklin Jr.'s relationship with his father, Franklin D. Roosevelt. While the elder Roosevelt provided his son with unparalleled opportunities and set high expectations for his political career, Franklin Jr. struggled to step out of his father's enormous shadow. He often felt that his father's legacy was more of a burden than a blessing. Although they shared a mutual respect, their bond was marked by pressure rather than warmth. Franklin Jr. once confided to a close friend, "I'll never be able to be the man my father was, no one could." This sense of inadequacy haunted him throughout his life, contributing to the personal and political struggles that followed him until his death. Number 9. The forgotten environmentalist. While overshadowed by personal scandals, Franklin Delano Roosevelt Jr. made significant contributions to the early environmental movement. During his time in Congress, he was a vocal advocate for preserving natural resources and supported several conservation initiatives that later shaped U.S. environmental policy. In a 1952 speech, he remarked, "Our duty is not just to our country, but to the generations that follow." He helped draft bills aimed at protecting national parks and wildlife reserves, though these accomplishments have largely been forgotten due to the overwhelming focus on his family name and personal struggles. Number 10. The final years and health struggles. In his later years, Franklin Delano Roosevelt Jr. largely retreated from public life, spending his final years dealing with health issues, including heart problems. Despite his once high-profile life, he lived quietly in New York, away from the political arena that had defined much of his existence. He passed away on August 17, 1988, his 74th birthday. His death marked the end of an era for the Roosevelt family. A family friend noted at his funeral, Franklin had the world at his feet but struggled to make his mark in the shadow of giants.